Now that we've figured out the problems of messaging and compatibility, and we've gotten Apple to adopt RCS and everything, we're going to move on to an equally easy to solve problem, the potential of mobile identity. We have Keiron Dalton of Sekura Mobile, Shane Unfred of TSG Global, and Steve Legge of NetNumber. Come on up and join me, and we'll get to it. So I thought I know people like to talk about how phone numbers are not really that important as an identifier, but talk to a New Yorker who still has a 202 number, or anyone whose last 7 digits actually spell something. I'll note that my Google Voice number is 202 over wit. That's how to find it. So I think that there is some usefulness there. And so each of these folks, they have a few quick slides prepared. So who wants to go first?
Sure, I'll go this far.
Yeah, right. I'm not in charge of making the slides happen.
Just do each other's slides.
You don't want me debugging that thing. Oh.
I'll lead, yes. You're up. Do you want me to go?
Somebody decided this.
First and foremost, I'm in a very odd position of being both jet-lagged and wired with coffee, so hopefully that makes sense. But the second thing is I'm talking identity, but as you've noticed, I'm not Mark Harvey, I'm Keiron Dalton. So first and foremost, a little bit of my background, and I'll keep this super quick. So over 10 years ago in the UK, we worked specifically at looking at mobile attributes from the telcos. So looking at that underlying telco layer of, can we determine risk and understand the challenges around things like compromising of two-factor authentication. Now back then, when I was doing this as part of a small startup, the telcos didn't know what we were doing. And so I've spent the last 10, 15 years speaking to a number of different audiences, working in a number of different geographies, explain the value of what's underlying within a telco. Now, today I'm representing Sekura. I used to work for Proof Identity, I used to work for GSMA, I used to work for BT in the UK, so I've got a fairly kind of rounded expertise. But, and I'm not going to go into this slide because I hate slides that tell you all about how mobile is ubiquitous. But I wanted to yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. But I wanted to touch on this slide. So, a couple of things that I think resonate based on what we've heard today. So, if you look at what our value proposition is, it's fundamentally connecting the telcos. So we provide, whether it be attributes, whether it be authentication services, we do that via a single API that allows us to connect to multiple geographies. So whether it be US, Canada, Netherlands, UK, you name it. But there's two things in particular, I think, that really demonstrate the power of what we're doing. So first and foremost, up there it says Safer Auth, which is secure authentication framework. But I want to emphasize that this is fundamentally what is typically known as Silent Auth, Mobile Number Verify. Some people even call it header enrichment as another version. But this is something that I really truly believe in as a method to start to deprecate the reliance on SMS OTP. So if you look at the UK as an example, I've personally been responsible for deploying this within 2 Tier 1 banks. It's reduced fraud, it's improved the customer experience, all those good things, and it's been hugely successful. The second thing is, and this I think really shows the power of collaboration. So up there we have Scam Detect. So in the UK, one of the biggest issues, which is a typical issue across the planet, social engineering, scams, it's the human element. So we've been working closely with the telcos and the banks, and what we've done is we've established methods of determining behaviours that can ultimately work out, is there something unusual happening here? Is there a phone call tactic during a payment, for example? Or is there a high velocity of text messaging, etc.? And because of those insights, it's allowed us to determine whether, and what is known as in the UK as authorised push payment fraud, but it's allowed us to determine whether there's likely to be something that's slightly untoward. for me, that's really an indication of how this ecosystem should be working together. And it's something now that we're also looking at the Netherlands and other geographies. There are other things on there, but I will touch on them as we go. I'm going to pass it on to the next person.
Let's see, I don't actually know whose slide is coming up next, so let's see if your lucky number comes up here.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I want to talk about identity. We all have an issue with identity, whether we're a mobile operator, we're a carrier, we're an enterprise, we're a consumer. Think about the one unique identifier that we all have in common worldwide. And that unique identifier we have is a telephone. Now we need to attach it to an identity. And when we were talking about identity, it comes into three pillars that we focus on in our view of the business. One is privacy, second is security, and the third is compliance. So when we think about privacy, are we talking about privacy internally with our client data, but also privacy in the information we share with third parties, whether it's a carrier, an application? How do we share that information without getting into privacy law violations, whether it's GDPR, California protection of identity, etc.? And the solution that we have created is based off blockchain technology, which creates an opportunity to create your know your customer record, which we call a digital letter of authorization, where an end user, an enterprise identity is vetted and attested by the chain of custody, being the carrier, being a third-party entity, be it government, however it might be. And with that record being created, blockchain creates an immutable record that allows that information to be shared in a representation via a token, to where the receiving party can say, hey, I can open up this token, I can understand the identity, and I can attest and see what kind of level of reputation score that caller has, whether it's a voice or a text, right? So this solution is more than just messaging. It's also in voice. It'll handle anything that we look at from an interaction communication channel standpoint. So we talk about security. How secure is it? Well, we all know in telecom we're very famous for, hey, if there's an issue out there, let's go create another database. A database with information that is single, is proprietary. Guess what happens? Those are like targets on the back where people or bad actors are saying, hey, DDoS attack, let's go after this. We've seen it in telecom. We've seen it in the financial industry. This architecture gives the ability where that digital letter of authorization is built, but the data is distributed across multiple databases called a Legge. And that information is encrypted. So that if a bad actor tries to get in and hits one of the databases, they don't get all the information. They might get my first name, but they don't get my address, they don't get my cell phone number, etc. And it provides an ability to share information with other third parties in a tokenized manner, where, going back to privacy, I don't have to tell you it's my customer, Wells Fargo, sitting at 123 Main Street. I can tell you that this customer is on my number, they've been a client of mine for 20 years, A-level, right? So then we talk about compliance. Are we talking about industry best practices? Are we talking about regulatory compliance? I guess it really depends on where you sit in the supply chain. Are you a government official? Are you a carrier? Are you a service provider? An enterprise? Consumer? Think about the enterprise. If you're in the financial industry, you have a whole set of different compliance requirements. If you're in healthcare, you got HIPAA and all those compliance requirements. What this architecture, this new network enables is the ability to document all the compliance requirements and be able to have those attested and vetted and verified based off the same source of truth, which is this architecture of collection. Thank you.
And now it's our third presentation.
Great, well, thanks Shane. Hi everyone. First of all, thanks to the Met for the opportunity to speak to everyone this afternoon. I'll just spend a few minutes here. I am sitting in the lucky third seat there, and I don't have anything done but my shirt for, so I'll spare you that. When I was asked to speak this afternoon, my mind went back to an article I read in Forbes a couple of months ago about the $80 billion market opportunity that Patrick Sadia, who's a partner at Mayfield, which is a VC firm in Silicon Valley, wrote about. And it resonated with this topic, and I thought I'd spend just a couple of minutes talking about that, and then some shameless plugs for NetNumber along the way. And it was an interesting article in that he did a great job in explaining the identity stack, and we all know the identity stack, and whether we know it or not, we've been working with it for many, many years. And he went on then to articulate the changes in identity and how the market is shifting and the drivers for that. So the push-pull between the consumer wanting more privacy and security, and the data needs to be protected. Their data needs to be protected. So there's a some push-pull there and some tension. Regulatory security and privacy, clearly another area where we've heard multiple times today that the regulatory environment, there's just no way that it can keep up with the marketplace and the technology. And then the technology itself. Now we have the handsets with biometrics in them, so facial recognition, fingerprints, etc. So all of this completely changes the landscape for identity. What was striking about the article was, as it went on, and he did a great job of explaining the new use cases, the potential market value, and the companies participating in all of those, he did not reference mobile ever again. Yet, when you look at all of those use cases, they're all driven by mobile. They're driven by the intersection of the handset technology with the network, with the contextual and behavioural signals that come from all of that. So without all of that coming together, there really isn't this $80 billion market opportunity that I described. Clearly, the mobile identity space is driving identity, at least in my view. High penetration globally. There we go. Call out there. And whether we like it or not, the mobile number is unique. Whether good, bad, or indifferent, we have it, and that's where NetNumber comes in. We've been in the industry. Some of you know us. I know there's some of our customers here in the audience, and then there's some of you who probably have no idea who we are. We've been in the market for around 20 years now, a little over 20 years. We've been providing data services for 15. We provide, the best way to think about what we do is telephone number intelligence solutions. We don't provide subscriber information. We provide detailed network and service information about telephone numbers globally. So we have, the slide says over 100 data sets. We have, I think, over 130 at last count. Data sets that have an inventory of over 2.4 billion numbers globally. So we have pretty well, we think, all of the telephone numbers in the world, and we have information about those. Many of those are updated in real time or near real time, and we provide these to customers all over the world. We operate a global infrastructure, have been doing so for many years, serving many customers not only in North America but also in Europe and Asia Pac. We serve, I think in terms of queries, hundreds of billions of queries annually. So this is something that, for us, we're an ingredient in the identity space, but not the answer to why there is actually an answer to identity. So we're an important ingredient in the whole baking of the cake here. So underlying all of this data is required. We provide that data. We've got a team that many have been with the company for years and years, very deep expertise, and again, some of you as well know some of the team members. So with that, I think I've consumed my 5 minutes.
And we're getting to the series a little bit. So this is a really fascinating topic, the whole issue of online identity, how we present ourselves to friends and businesses and so on. That's saying enough that I'm not going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. So first of all, the case why you might have a hard time. It strikes me that in the past few years, a variety of factors, some bad, some just ill-intended, have just taken a lot of hammers to the notion of phone numbers saying you can trust all these scam calls and messages. Just looking through these scam messages going, Google Voice. How are you? Hello, are you Chris? Hello, is this Hazel? Hello, my friend. Hi, hello, Kelly. You're still on vacation. Which basically just tell people, unless you actually know the number and your phone says it's already in your contacts list, don't trust it. We have things like SIM swap attacks, which are used to undermine the trust factors we use our phone numbers to get one-time codes to secure accounts. Messaging redirection hacks, all sorts of unpleasantness like this. How can the industry sort of build back from that? Because on the other hand, I'm going to switch gears, change hats. Who better to verify your account than a company you have a close relationship with? They literally know where you live. If something goes wrong, hopefully your wireless carrier has some sort of place you can go in person to get your problem solved. Whereas if you get locked out of your Google account, you can email me, but I can try to ask Google EVR for you, but it's really tough. My batting average there is not that great. And if your account gets closed, then you're really there was a terrible story in the New York Times a few weeks ago about in San Francisco because he also used Google Fi, managed to get his email and his phone number killed in one account suspension. So, on the one hand, there's the frailty of using free email IDs as our unique identifier, given an opportunity to rebuild the mobile number as the most important digits. On the other hand, how do we get past all the damage that's been done?
Well, the point I'd make, how the coffees were enough. So I look at a mobile phone as being the first transition you have into a kind of digital presence. So we've all seen the studies, but it's somewhere around 11 you get your first mobile phone. And so if you think of whether you're a bank or somebody else that has transactional information on you or behavior or whatever, your telco or the byproduct of your mobile use is probably the best or the most mature indicator of somebody's life. Particularly as you get into that kind of, the first time you get a bank account, for example, you might be 17, 18. Well, actually, the telco may have known you like that, or at least know some associate of you for about 5 or 6 years. And I think that maturity and that tenure is something that needs to be leveraged.
So it's time that this industry starts taking control of reclaiming your identity and ownership, whether you're a business or a consumer. And with that, providing the means for the carriers to share a representation of data to validate the true use of it. And I'm not just talking within the local industry, I'm talking about with the landline companies, the owners of the telephone numbers. Right. We want to protect our consumers on the wireless side, but how do you do that if you have these big old humongous pipes and the data is just going through it and you're just not validating is it accurate? Is it good traffic? So I need ability to be able to say, I need a way to verify this is good traffic so I can make more revenue and continue to support the trust from my customers.
Steve. Yeah, I think it's definitely something, the part that we play with our data, we see that wide and varying use cases across the world. So the US, for example, has a very different problem statement to maybe other parts of the world. So again, some of this comes back to somewhat regulatory, but definitely the industry and how the industry wants to regulate itself. As we heard this morning, if you don't try to come to some sort of consensus between yourself, someone's going to step in like the FCC. So I think it is something that needs to be more actively discussed within the industry players. I'm sure it's
I like the emphasis on trust. I mean, it's something that, having had my data lost by T-Mobile, don't worry, they're not the only one. It's a long line. There's the companies that have managed to lose my data. I would like to see more of the companies that have any data show taking protecting it seriously, doing things like data anonymization, maybe not keeping cell-site location history for years and years. Since there are no carriers on this panel, you all can tell me what to do. Do you have any sort of blue list of things that you'd say, if you want to get people to trust us and to adopt the number we gave you as your identifier, what do you have to do first?
I'm going to answer the question here, but something that's kind of always frustrated me is, for me, the whole telco community is Mr. Trick and probably demonstrating the value they can add to help secure systems, so consumers. So I'm going to use the UK as an example. We've got 4 main telcos. There's a really collaborative ecosystem there of not sharing data, we don't share anything clear, there's nothing stored, it's all done based on question and answer box. The message is so powerful that everybody's fearful that actually, if that message gets out there, it's from Big Brother, sharing data, etc. I think there's a whole educational piece that's missing around actually getting in front of this, saying, well, the more you're transparent, the more you can potentially do, the more insight and collaboration you can get. I think there's too much of it that's kind of behind closed doors.
Show your work, I like it.
Yeah.
What I would say is that the owners of the telephone networks need to step out into the play, and we talked about the same cost of KYC, right? But the current implementations tend to be fill out this PDF document, email them back to me, or fill out something on the web page. Right? That's never tied to a number. In the service, in the way we're trying to combat spam and robocalls, etc. So take ownership, require that you understand your customers, so that carrier, the TN owner knows that, hey, I do know my first line customer, but also want to know what's that 4th or 5th level customer beneath me, what are they doing? What's their reputation story? How do I know that they're doing good business? You need to be a stalwart for taking ownership of that asset that you have, which is a telephone number.
And Steve.
Yeah, I think Stuart Shaken is probably a good example in the US of maybe something that's been conceived and brought to market, but for those of us who it really hasn't made any real impact, at least for me personally. I'm still getting a whole lot of robocalls and other things, and sometimes I even get my own check mark with a spam likely identified on it. So that's another interesting one. But yeah, so again, this comes back to what the guy said, and then what I said earlier is that conceiving something as an ecosystem that's more robust and coming together at a higher level as an industry is really important, and that's how it'll start on at least maybe you never solve the problem entirely, but you'll have a much better chance than the current implementations that are there.
I've got a couple of individual questions. This first one is Sekura. This for Sekura. The examples you're giving from the UK, to what extent is your system sort of portable to the US, given the different regulatory environment? Privacy landscape is maybe a little simpler. I think one likes that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a unique term, but we do have a concept of this whole global scenario. So as far as we're concerned, if you look at our proposition, it's about connecting up to multiple telcos. Fundamentally, it's looking at different insights and different geographies. We're always cognizant of the fact that there's always going to be different landscapes, different requirements, different problems that need to be solved. But the reality is there's always that kind of underpinning all of this is that common ground of determining who somebody is, building confidence in somebody's phone number, even the KYC elements. They're pretty consistent. I mean, the way I look at it, that if you can roll out something in sometimes in Central Europe like we have, then you really shouldn't be afraid of rolling out anywhere. Because when it comes to things like GDPR, which some people get fearful of, I actually regard it as an opportunity, because it's creating a framework of, well, if this is best practice, then I should apply it. We do apply whether it's the US, Canada, Latin, Asia. We are.
I like to call it policy outsourcing, and we in Washington, let's do our job. This is for TSG. So I hear blockchain based, and I get details outside of cryptocurrency. I wrote not long ago about a company in an effort to put real estate technology in blockchain-esque system. But this is going to operate in a different context. Is this something? How does this blockchain-based certainty of a number show up on this thing? If I haven't installed anything extra, does the carrier have to support it, or?
Good question, right? So the blockchain we're talking about is not cryptocurrency, right? This is a private blockchain, and having that representation of the data on your phone is either an app or it's embedded in the chip that sits in the phone itself, to where the consumer is frictionless. They think about when they procure the number and set up the phone, and then it's like set it, forget it, etc.
Okay, and this one for NetNumber, you mentioned before, most people probably haven't heard of you all. I'm not sure if I had either before signing up for this conference. There is a lot of mystery about how messages get rerouted around the world. I think most people had no idea this universe existed at all until there was that Valentine's Day text message hiccup 3 years ago. Are you all playing a sort of creation profile a little bit, so realizing, they're signing inside this black box, and not an evil something.
So we're a registry provider in the US, and very much a partner with Cineverse and the other messaging hubs. So prior to June, we were two lines of business. We had a software business that built core network components for the industry worldwide, the carrier industry. We spun that out and we were acquired. The data business was acquired by our partners in Boston based in July. So now a different, but same business, the same team going forward, but with new funding and a bigger mission. So definitely we'll see more of this.
Very good, very good. We have 3 minutes and 40 seconds on audience Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, have a mic somewhere here, just shout. It's not that big of a room.
This is good because I've got a flight to catch.
Okay, right. We're going to end this thing on time, no matter what. Failing that, I'll throw a question of my own. You mentioned GDPR, the California Consumer Privacy Act. There's a bunch of new. There's one coming in Virginia that goes into effect January 1st, and as a Virginia voter, I'm not sure what it will do that they've already gotten from GDPR or CCPA being applied universally. Are there policy developments in privacy that you make things worse for you? What you're trying to do to make the phone number be a reliable source of identity?
I don't believe so. And the reason I say that is the end user, whether you're a consumer or a business, you're taking control of your identity and you're permissioning out information. So as a consumer or an enterprise, I'm authorizing the use of this information.
Good. Do we have any questions? I can't see super well with the lights on me, so. There's the microphone. Fourth row.
Thank you. How do you see the SIMs are disappearing into legacy from GSM days? The SIMs are getting replaced. Now everything's back to software. There's no more physical security privacy. Do you see any changes in SIMs?
I mean, from our perspective, one thing I want to clarify, by the way, is probably will have heard of us because we use a partner model, so a lot of those replays are actually helping to provide kind of those insights for them to take to market. And when it comes to eSIM and even when it comes to eSIM onboarding or provisioning, etc., for me, that just represents an opportunity where trust and validation and confidence is critical. So it generates a new level of flexibility for the consumer. It actually generates a whole new opportunity for identity as well.
Do we have another question out there? We may have answered everyone's questions already, as possible as that might be. Well, I will say, like, what I've learned so far is that I think there is a little more light in these humble 10 digits or more we carry around in your country. Given that online identity is a problem that no one's really solved, I'm old enough to remember suggesting pretty good privacy keys from a web of trust, and we're going to nail this use case. So I think we'll see what happens. I'm not planning on changing my numbers anytime soon, since the 703 number is well in Virginia, and that's very good going elsewhere as well. So if you have any other questions, please look us up or give me a call, 202-683-7948. Thank you so much. Safe travels.